Welcome to Film Majors. I'm your host, William Stewart with the Hoosier Network, and this is a show breaking down film of Indiana sports, or some of the biggest collegiate games in the country at the time, and we learn why the game went the way it did. Obviously, we're in the heat of March Madness. It's April 1st right now, but it's still March Madness. The Final Four just advanced. We're going to gloss over each advancing team's Elite Eight game today, and no, this isn't an April Fool's joke. We're going to do all 4 games, which is 3 more games than Charles Barkley can apparently watch at once. Roll 'em. Now, there's going to be a trend between each of these games that you'll notice. It's going to be the difference in the time that these teams haven't played each other, and then the differential in the final score. Duke and Alabama, they haven't played in a decade, so there's not really much to go off of the two teams in deep insights-wise. But this Duke team has been one of the best teams in the history of college basketball on both ends of the court. Meanwhile, Alabama, they can shoot the lights out, and they have been the entire tournament. Their defense is a little suspect, but that shooting, they were doing great the entire tournament until this game against Duke, the off night that you don't want to have against the best team in college basketball right now. Therefore, Duke ended up winning this one 86-65, keeping the Crimson at a low tide. They hardly even let their lead shrink to single digits. Let's get into the footage. First play we're going to look at, it's double flares by Duke. You got Kneppel coming around. You got Tyrese Proctor coming around. Proctor's going to have a wide open 3-ball. He's able to cash it for Duke because Alabama's defense, per usual, just isn't there. Another play, a great read here by Duke, and a great cut as well in the off chance. You see the screen get set right here. And the slip immediately able to get the easy 2 points for Duke, and their lead just keeps extending. That's what I want you guys to look at, is how much Duke's lead was just constantly up by at least 8 or 10 points. This next play, it's a Cooper flag pick and roll between him and Sion James. Watch it here. Cooper able to set the screen. He rolls, gets the bounce pass, and the great lob to man-man, because you got a 7-footer. Why not throw it up to him? Next play coming down. It kind of shows why Alabama isn't as great as you want them to be. It's really more 5 guys on a team. They're not really playing together as a team, and it shows in this play here. Now they're coming down in transition, and you see the ball handler, and also all 3 guys are funneling into the lane with really no spacing at all. Luckily, there's 2 guys outside here, and Sears and another guard, but still, the floater goes up, able to make it, but that just kind of speaks to how Alabama isn't really as much of a team as you want them to be, which led to them kind of getting just run off the floor by Duke. Now the last play we're going to look at here, another Duke positive play, shocker, because they have a lot of them. It's an inbound. It's going to end up going to Kneppel, but first he sets a screen, lets one guy able to roll out, another wraps over top just to confuse Alabama's defense. Look back at it, and you see off the screen by Kneppel that both guys that were supposed to be switching on the screen, they both end up taking Proctor. So Kneppel able to roll because 13 was looking down in the corner at his own man. So that's the end of the highlights for Duke and Alabama. They really just speak to how well Duke is coach-wise. Coach Shire has his team humming, and analytically they've become one of the best teams to ever play college basketball. I know a lot of people have questionable opinions on KenPom, but this Duke team is the second best team in the history of KenPom. That's an insane statistic. Their plus-minus as a team is like plus 40. This team realistically has 6 starters, and they all play pretty equally. Now, obviously, there's Cooper Flagg, the unanimous All-American. We talked about him, and there's a reason he's an All-American and was unanimous. He's the best player in college basketball right now. And the rest of his teammates, all these starters, they're all-team ACC guys. This Duke team is a juggernaut, just to put it simple as that. They're a favorite to win the tournament for a reason, and they showed it against Bama and kind of exposed all of Bama's weaknesses, which we'll see if Coach and the guys down in Tuscaloosa can change that going into the next season. The next game we're going to look at, Houston and Tennessee, was another blowout. The trend with these two is they haven't played in 3 decades, or 30 years, whatever you want to call it. So this is kind of like Duke and Bama storyline-wise, just a larger gap of time the programs haven't seen each other. But play style-wise, these teams are entirely different, Houston and Duke at least, and the 1 seeds. Houston won their Elite Eight matchup 69-50. It was a great game by Houston. They denied the Volunteers really any service. We'll get into the film right now. First play we're going to look at is Tennessee at the free throw line, and this play kind of embodied how this game went. Tennessee able to get their own rebound, but Houston blocks the shot immediately, and whoever edited these highlights, they had to use an entire dissolve to show how much time Tennessee passed just trying to dribble and get a decent look. Now, Tennessee was able to get this floater off. It was Meshack just hitting probably the luckiest shot of the game and ended up bailing out Tennessee, but they get locked down the entire game. Uzan comes down, hits a turnaround jumper, which is what Houston was really excelling at, was getting points down in the paint and down in the post. On this next one, Javier Francis just backing down Tennessee's defender, able to get the step through and extend Houston's lead. And look at the score right now. It's the end of the first half, and Tennessee has scored 12 points. Just 34-12 at the end of the first half. And Tennessee averages like 80 points a game. It's ridiculous what Houston could do on the defensive end. And we'll get to the actual stats in a second, but we'll get back into the film here. This next play we're going to look at, Tennessee had a good look here. It was an interesting development. They had some double screens here. You see an off ball, 11 able to set the screen and drives, gets totally swarmed by Houston, able to kick it out, and anyone but Chaz Lanier able to hit the three and kind of give Tennessee some life. You see now we're later into the game, and Houston's actually been scoring in the second half, but it didn't matter because of Houston's ability on offense as well to kind of just kill teams. You see the ball movement and the spacing. Tennessee in a 2-3 zone. They've got 1, 2, 3 guys, 4 guys manned up, but they left wide open in the corner. One of Houston's best shooters in Sharp, and he drills the corner three, kind of able to bury the Volunteers. Now, Houston's defense is inhumane. They held Tennessee to 28-17 shooting splits. 17% from three is disgusting, and 28% from the field, unheard of in this era of college basketball. Now, Houston's offense, they can have a bad day, and it doesn't matter because this defense is always there. Look at the Purdue game that they just played in the round before. They only scored 62 points, and they still were able to win and beat Purdue. Look at the Baylor game. We broke that down a couple weeks ago. This defense is so disgusting. I mean, they're able to switch from man into a 3-2 zone in the middle of possessions. It's just ridiculous how well of an oiled machine Kelvin Sampson has developed down in Houston. And put some respect on that man's name. It's not Kevin, it's Calvin. Now, this team, Houston has moved on. They're going to be able to play Duke in the Final Four. Now, it's the best defensive team in the country, the best two-way team in the country in Duke. I'm going to take Duke in that matchup because Houston's defense, I feel like, can fail at some point, but it's been 35, 40 games into the season and it hasn't failed yet. Maybe it's just illusion talking. I don't know. But the trend that we've kind of been studying is it's been a decade between two programs playing. Houston and Tennessee, it's been 3 decades between those two programs playing. And Auburn and Michigan State, these two programs have never played once in their entire existence. And it's another 1-2 matchup, so it's the same storyline that we've had for these last 3 games for a Final Four spot. Auburn took this one, so the one seeds are 3-0 right now. They won 70-64, which the final score indicates it's close, but it really wasn't that close in the scoreboard or in the box score the entire game until those last few seconds. Now, it did feel competitive the entire 2 halves between Michigan State and Auburn, but Auburn seemingly always had a 5 to 10 point lead. We'll get into the film and break down how did Auburn just keep the Spartans at bay. The first play we're going to look at for Auburn is Johnny Broome going to end up getting the ball. Shocker, John Broome, another unanimous All-American, backs down Michigan State center. And this was kind of a constant all game. John had 25 on the day, shot like 10 of 13 from the field. It was just disgusting. And here he calls for the ball, gets the wraparound. What you'll notice is 5 steps down to him, and he notices that there's pressure from the wide side of the court. What does he do? Uses his momentum against his defender, spins inside, walls him off. A beautiful layup there by John Broome. But Michigan State, they were fighting. Don't mistake that at all. Like I said, it was competitive all game, and it shows in this clip here. John tries to go for the reverse layup, gets it sent back down with his own hands, but he's able to find his own guy at the top of the key. This kind of represents how Auburn was able to play all game. Drills the 3. Auburn extends their lead to 8. But Auburn, they really just were able to find a way every single play. No matter how good MSU was able to play them defensively or even on offense, if they came down and hit a shot, Auburn just responded perfectly. In Michigan State, they didn't have their greatest shooting day, which is why they were always in that 5 to 10 point deficit and even larger than that early on in the game. We'll get back into the film here because Michigan State, they had some good offensive plays. Cooper sets a screen up top. The drive on the pick and roll gets sent by John Broome. Shocker. Kohler able to rebound, and he finds Cooper because he realizes his awareness on the court. He's got kind of 3 guys in his own area. The other side of the paint wide open. Cooper flushes that one home. Michigan State still fighting. And this is what Auburn just does so well. They're another well-oiled machine just like Houston. They move the ball around so well, swing at the extra pass. Pettiford in the corner buries a 3. Auburn goes up 13, and they just run it on from the end of the game. Obviously, Michigan State had a few free throws, made that game seem closer than it was, and a 6-point difference. Now, the concern with Auburn is they didn't look like their midseason self really coming into the tournament or during the tournament. But this game, this looked like the Auburn that we talked about a few weeks ago, a couple months ago at this point, and the team that I believe they can be. Now, Michigan State, they weren't shooting that well, but that's also props to the Auburn defense. They were just constantly getting swarmed by the Auburn defense. There was bad shots. They were contested, but also, like I said, they weren't hitting everything. But the other thing, Auburn was able to rally because Auburn didn't shoot that well as a team overall, but John Broome took the game over. Auburn, they're a strong team. When they play together, they're strong, or when Broome just takes over like that, they're even stronger because he just rallies these guys so well. But the other thing with Auburn is that they're rolling now. They understand where they're going, and because John Broome is taking over games, or they're playing together, it's making their jobs really just easier at this point. Now, Auburn, they're going to the Final Four. They're going to play between Florida and Texas Tech, which is the final Elite Eight matchup that we're going to talk about. Now, we've had teams that have not played before. We have teams that haven't played in 3 decades. We have a team that hasn't played in a decade. These 2 teams have played within the last decade, so I guess that's a little different from what we've seen, but they still haven't played much. This is a 1 versus a 3 seed, so this is a little different storyline and a much different game than what we've seen in the first 3 with just teams keeping the other team away and the 1 seeds move on. This 1 seed Florida, they're an interesting team, but they're also electric, which is solely because of their offensive ability, led by the All-American in Walter Clayton Jr. Walter Clayton's tough. He's insane to watch, and it's going to show because we're just going to watch the comeback. Their comeback, they were down 61-71, ended up coming back, winning 84-79 against Texas Tech. This game was arguably the best game of the tournament so far, and we're just going to watch the comeback. We're not going to bother with how they ended up getting into this hole because of turnovers and fouls that didn't go their way. We're going to watch what Florida can be. The first player we're going to look at is Mark Clayton. He's running in transition, runs to the wing, and it's almost Curry-esque. He just turns around and shoots it. And the shooter's touch, it bounces in for him. The next play, it's him and Haw kind of playing hot potato. Clayton misses the first one. Haw gets the rebound, kicks it right back to Clayton and says, here, try again, you're hot. Clayton ends up getting doubled because Texas Tech started thinking, and Haw wide open on the wing. Same spot Clayton hit the last one, drills it. And now swinging it around, Haw ends up getting on the opposite wing and says, hey, I'm hot right now. I'm going to start shooting too. But Mark Clayton comes down again, shrinking the Texas Tech lead with one of the craziest heat checks I think I've ever seen in my existence. But Texas Tech, they're still the 3 seed for a reason. They fought back. This great inbound play here. Everyone spreads out, but it's highlighted by getting Toppin, their best player of the ball. He's one-on-one with Haw, uses his size, lays it in, and Texas Tech able to have a lead. But Psycho Walter Clayton, comes down, gets a decent look in the paint, and says, no, I'm good. I'm going to walk out of the 3-point line and takes a double. He's contested by 2 guys. He takes a leaner for the dagger. Ends up giving Florida the lead. Foul trouble ensues in that point, and guys are fouling each other. And then there was the whole backcourt issue of did Florida get fouled, but obviously Florida ended up getting free throws out of it. Florida took an even bigger lead, walk away with the game. Now, like I said before, the highlights, Florida had that bad stretch of turnovers and fouls, but they fought it off because it's one of the best teams, and they were the favorite to win the tournament coming into this. They got it done on both ends of the floor, and realistically, this is probably the best team in the country because of just how explosive they are. No matter if they're down because they're playing bad, they're still going to come back. Now, we've seen Houston. If they get down, it's going to be questionable with that offense. But if they get down, that's kind of a shock because they really haven't had to deal with losing much at all this season. Duke's one of the best two-way teams in the country. They're one of the best teams in college basketball. But Auburn, they're just solid. They're such a well-oiled machine, very similar to Houston, but their scoring ability and their ceiling is just a little bit higher than the rest of the teams left in the field. So my belief is that Florida ends up losing to Auburn in the Final Four game, and I think Duke on the other side is going to end up beating Houston. So it's going to be Auburn and Duke in an ACC versus SEC championship, but who knows what will happen? We'll find out this weekend. That's all for this week's lesson. For the Hoosier Network, I'm William Stewart. Y'all have a good week. God bless.